In the early 13th century, from the windswept steppes of Central Asia emerged a name that would haunt civilizations from China to Europe: Genghis Khan. He rode at the head of an unstoppable Forsan army of horsemen, archers, engineers, and assassins. They moved like shadows and struck like fire. Cities fell, empires crumbled, and entire cultures vanished. But it wasn't just military brilliance or overwhelming numbers that allowed Genghis Khan to forge the largest contiguous empire in human history. It was something more elemental: fear. Not just the fear of death, but of something far worse: torture. From Persia to the Caucasus, from the Jin dynasty to the gates of Hungary, stories spread like wildfire. Tales of nobles crushed beneath wooden boards, kings suffocated with felt rugs, soldiers burned alive, and civilians buried up to their necks and left for the elements. These were not the wild excesses of undisciplined men. They were deliberate tactics directed from the top, part of a vast system of psychological warfare designed to shatter resistance before the first arrow was loosed. When Genghis Khan took a city, it wasn't just a victory. It was a message. Those who defied him would not simply die. It would be broken, humiliated, and erased. Resistance would be punished not with death alone, but with suffering so profound that it would echo for generations. He understood something timeless. In war, fear travels faster than armies. When fear works, blood need not be spilled, because the enemy destroys itself. Modern historians often debate the brutality of Genghis Khan. Was he a product of his time? Was his cruelty exaggerated by enemies? Or was he, as many chronicles claim, a ruler who used torture not as a last resort, but as a weapon of statecraft? Whatever the truth, the legacy remains. To this day, in the ruins of once great cities like Nishapur and Samarkand, bones still surface from mass graves. In ancient manuscripts, scribes recorded the cries of survivors and the silence left behind by those who did not. In folklore, his name still carries weight, not just as a conqueror, but as a symbol of merciless vengeance. This is not the story of battlefield tactics or empire building. This is the story of what came after the walls fell, the men, women, and rulers who were tortured not merely to die, but to serve as examples. These methods were used to destroy enemy morale, extract confessions, or simply to send a message no one could forget. This is the story of Genghis Khan's most terrifying torture methods, where death was not the end, but the proof of power. First on our list is the wooden collar, a terrifying method of humiliation and restraint. When Genghis Khan was just a boy, he experienced profound humiliation when captured by a rival tribe. They bound him with a wooden collar that prevented sleep, movement, or rest. This brutal device was designed to humiliate captives, parading them like livestock. Once he escaped, Genghis vowed never to be powerless again. As he rose to power, he adopted this method for his enemies. Those captured could be forced to wear these collars, a public display of their shame, while their families and friends looked on. It was a slow, torturous experience. The collar would cause pain and eventual injury, and the humiliation was designed to break their spirit before death even came. The psychological impact of this torture was immense, leaving deep scars that would last long after the physical pain subsided. Next, we have death by compression, a horrifying execution method reserved for nobility and leaders. This method involved crushing the victim between heavy wooden boards or stones. The victim would be laid flat, and immense weight was applied until the rib cage collapsed inward, slowly suffocating the person. It was a grisly fate, often carried out in front of their own subjects, to send a clear message about the consequences of defiance. Witnesses described the horror of watching someone struggle for breath as their bones cracked. It was a punishment not only for the individual, but a display of power meant to instill fear in others. Genghis Khan used this method to eliminate not just the person, but their bloodline, ensuring that no heirs could rise to challenge him. This method made clear that defiance would not just lead to death, but a slow, agonizing end. Third on our list is the burning of entire cities with their inhabitants still inside. Genghis Khan's forces often set fires to cities that resisted, believing that fire was not just a weapon, but a method of psychological warfare. In Nishapur, after the death of a commander, the entire population was executed. The flames consumed homes, but also the spirits of those who dared to defy the Mongols. Survivors were often left to witness the devastation, their families perishing in the flames. This method was not just about killing. It was about erasing the very existence of the city and instilling terror in neighboring regions. The memory of such destruction would spread, ensuring that others would submit to avoid the same fate. Next, we delve into the infamous pyramids of skulls. After the slaughter of captured cities, Genghis Khan's forces often built towering piles of skulls as a grim reminder of their might. These were not random heaps. They were meticulously arranged to send a clear message. Resistance would not just be met with death, but with a spectacle that would haunt future generations. Travelers would recount the sight of these pyramids for years, ensuring the stories of Mongol cruelty spread like wildfire. The message was simple: defy the Mongols, and your fate would be a public display of your failure. This method served to terrify entire populations into submission, reinforcing the idea that the Mongols were a force of nature, unstoppable and merciless. Fifth on our list is the gruesome practice of flaying. Captured enemies would be skinned alive, and their skins displayed as trophies. This method was both a punishment and a warning. Flaying was reserved for those who had committed heinous acts against the Mongols, often reserved for leaders or prominent figures. The act was meant to instill fear, not only in the victim, but in their supporters and communities. The slow and painful process was designed to prolong suffering, making it a public spectacle that would leave lasting impressions on those who witnessed it. These acts were documented in chronicles, emphasizing the brutality of Mongol rule. The message was clear: betray the Khan, and you would face a fate worse than death. Buried alive is another method employed by Genghis Khan. Captives were often buried up to their necks in the ground and left to die slowly. This method was psychologically torturous and physically agonizing. Victims would suffer exposure to the elements, insects, and starvation. It was a method that not only killed but humiliated the captives, stripping them of dignity. In some cases, the Mongols would return after several days to finish the execution, creating a sense of dread and hopelessness among those left alive. The method was designed to break the spirit of entire communities. The finality of being buried alive served as a powerful warning to others, reinforcing the idea that defiance led to unimaginable suffering. The silence was a method of torture that involved stripping a soldier of their rank, weapons, and voice. This was a form of social execution designed to isolate and humiliate. The victim would march at the rear of the army, fed only scraps until either they died or earned death through failure. This punishment instilled fear not only in the victim, but in all who witnessed it. The psychological toll was immense, as the victims struggled with their loss of identity and purpose. This method served to reinforce the Mongol code of discipline, ensuring that loyalty was maintained through fear. In this way, the Mongols created a culture of obedience, where even the slightest infraction could lead to severe punishment. Fire was not just a weapon. It was a method of psychological warfare. The Mongols used fire to obliterate cities and instill fear in those who might resist. When a city fell, it often fell to flames. The Mongols would burn buildings and homes, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. This method was designed to create terror not only in the captured city but in neighboring regions. The sight of flames would spread quickly, ensuring that the tales of destruction traveled far and wide. The message was clear: resist the Mongols, and your city could be next. By using fire, Genghis Khan ensured that his legacy was one of fear and dominance, further solidifying his reputation as a ruthless conqueror. Psychological warfare was a key element of Genghis Khan's strategy. He understood that fear could be more effective than brute force, and he used it to his advantage. Before launching an attack, the Mongols would often send envoys to deliver messages of terror. They would recount the fates of cities that had resisted, ensuring that word spread like wildfire. This tactic led many cities to surrender without a fight, believing that compliance would spare them from the horrors that awaited those who dared to oppose the Khan. The psychological tactics employed by Genghis Khan remain relevant today, demonstrating that the fear of consequences can be a powerful motivator in warfare. Finally, we must discuss the erasure of cultures. Genghis Khan didn't just conquer, he obliterated entire civilizations, leaving nothing but ruins and memories. After the fall of a city, the Mongols would destroy not just the people, but their history. Libraries were burned, temples defaced, and the very identity of conquered peoples was systematically erased. This method of cultural annihilation served to prevent any resurgence of resistance and to ensure that the memory of the Mongols would be one of terror. The consequences of Genghis Khan's reign are still felt today, as cultures and histories have been lost forever, serving as a stark reminder of the cost of conquest. So there you have it, Genghis Khan's most terrifying torture methods. From the wooden collar to death by compression, each method served a purpose, instilling fear and ensuring obedience. If you found this exploration of Genghis Khan's brutal tactics fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on which method shocked you the most. Did you know the extent of his cruelty? Genghis Khan's legacy is a complex tapestry of fear and power, and as we uncover these dark chapters of history, we gain a deeper understanding of the lengths to which he went to forge an empire that still resonates today.